Hi, Ryan.
Hey, nice to meet you. Happy to be here. I'm excited to chat with you.
Thank you so much. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. Juxtaposition of Your Very Soul. I'm based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And first off, I would like to say thank you very much for saying yes to be interviewed today. It is quite I think it was a few messages. I think, yeah, you shot me a message, and then we connected right away. So when I read your profile, it's about working with therapists.
Hmm.
That intrigued me a lot because I myself am jumping into my own therapy and coaching business. So
Yeah.
I think it's a high time that we can, talk about it, and probably I can get some advice from you as well and all the other people.
Hopefully.
Yes, yes. So, I would like to read a bit of your introduction to our listeners today, and then we can get right into it.
Sounds good.
So, hey everyone, we have Ryan Derousseau here with us. Ryan specializes in working with therapists, private and group practitioners, and the self-employed, along with their families, enabling them to thrive financially so they can focus on clients. He's taken his years of experience working for himself and his deep knowledge of the financial space to build a process to help clients align their business with their goals, family, and future at the forefront. With the ability to work with therapists and the self employed across the country, he listens, guides, and encourages clients to unlock the value of the business and their finances. This builds a stronger practice, better life balance, and wealth while the patient or client experience improves. This touches on a series of topics and that includes cash flow management, goal development, ongoing tax optimization, investment strategy, and amongst others. So Ryan is a certified financial planner with a master's in business and economic reporting from New York University and a certificate of financial planning from Boston University. Wow. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I normally don't get it read off like my full. So it's weird hearing the whole thing just at once.
I,
So yeah, thank you.
I like it. I like it because it gives the listeners a context of who we have on the show today. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so Ryan, before we dive into the serious things, can you tell us what was it like growing up as Ryan Deruso?
Okay, we're going way back then.
Yes.
I'm from uh, the state of Kansas. So I grew
Kansas.
up in Kansas, grew up in Texas. So I moved around a little bit, and always wanted to be like a basketball player or something in sports or whatever. But as sort of life kind of came on, I ended up finding that I was very good at writing. And so I actually ended up becoming a journalist for a number of years. And that's kind of how I
Ooh.
got into what I do now, is because I happened to fall into um, business and investing writing. And in like the US, there's very little education done on like financial matters and financial like managing finances and stuff like that. And so I just happened by kind of sheer luck almost that I ended up getting a large knowledge in this space. And that's why I do what I do today, is just because I kind of fell into it. But like one of my favorite questions I ask people is sort of like my potential clients and whatnot are like, what type of financial education did you have growing up? And they're always sort of like, none really. And uh, and so then I always am like, yeah, in about seventh or eighth grade, I took a life skills class where I learned how to write a check at some point and trade a stock, like an individual stock. And then I say, but I don't write checks anymore and I don't trade individual stocks. So like I've learned nothing from school. So the fact that you didn't learn it is totally fine. We're going to learn it now. And so yeah, that's kind of how my journey got to where I am.
Wow, awesome. I want to go back to the part where you said in the US, it is not financial matters or managing finances is something that is not talked about often. It's But why? Like, US is the,
I
I would
know.
say, yeah. I mean, you guys have the highest GDP in the world right now still, but it's still, why is that? Like, what?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you're talking like very deep, ingrained, like sort of stuff as the reason, but I'll give it like my 2 cents of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, highest GDP and stuff like that. That's like good from like a macro level, but from
Yeah.
a micro level, there's a lot of, one like competition with neighbors and shame around money, not doing the right things with money. What's the right thing? And so this type of stuff builds up to where if we're never taught about how to manage stuff in school, then when we become adults where we're supposed to manage stuff and supposed to know this stuff already, well, we're not going to turn to our neighbors who we're trying to keep up with, or talk to our family members who we might feel shame about telling them the financial matters. And so it ends up kind of just being pushed down, hidden, and whatnot, and until something happens, right? So until like you've come under enough debt where now it has to be something that you have to take care of, or else like you're going to lose your house or something like that, or you just get to an age where the fear of what's to come becomes too overwhelming, and then you have to like reach out and seek help. Like in terms of the why it happens, I have
It's
theories.
deeply rooted.
It's
I know.
but
I know.
but it
You know what?
part of it's deep, and then part of it's like, do are there could banks discourage um, financial education to increase the amount of debt in the U.S.? It's possible, and so
Yeah.
why? Because that explains why it's not taught in school. Stuff like big stuff like that, and that's possible. I don't know, but from a personal level, it then becomes built into shame and fear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so much of like my interactions with clients is sort of helping them understand where their financial like impulses come
Status.
from. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
come
Mm-hmm.
from, and then also sort of ways to manage it. And then you're become wanting to become a therapist, and then so much of it also is requiring like a therapist like mind to like dig deep into sort of the personal dynamics that's leading to that.
Yeah. Well, I was asking that it's because I come from an accounting background.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also into investing and in the financial world. So it is something that boggles me as well. But on the other hand, it provides opportunities like yourself and coaches, right? Like financial coaches to help steer the people into better managing their finances. And I remember growing up in Malaysia, although let me see, there were topics that were taught in school about how to manage finances, not directly. I guess from upbringing, my parents would be like, okay, here's your piggy bank,
Mm-hmm.
put this, but that it wasn't that strong. It wasn't like ingrained in me, like you gotta say until I start earning myself. And well, we all go through that phase because parents did not have enough, so you earn, so you work, because you want to earn, because you want to buy things that you want, and then later you realize you don't really need all those things. So
Yeah.
I had to go through that myself. But then also the people around me, just it was just I think last 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine said, I'm so scared to look at my bank account, or I'm so scared to look at my financial status, because she's getting married. So of course
Mm.
money is number one, right? So it's like, well, why are you so scared? But I understand it because I think people like you and me, or other people that they've learned to face the music, and just you you keep running away from it, you're not gonna solve it. And
That's true.
yeah, and for her, I just thought, you know what, just have a look at your where you at, what do you need to pay? What do you have at the moment? Okay,
One
okay,
one
okay.
thing one thing I yeah, I mean one thing I like to talk to people about is sort of like because they always think they should be someplace, right? They should have
Oh my
reached a
God.
certain area
Yes,
by
yes.
now.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about this quite a bit. Like I don't know if you've heard of the writer Dan Sullivan. He's a coach and like a guide for the self-employed like entrepreneurs and whatnot.
Right.
There's this notion of the gap versus the gain, where essentially, like when you look out and you say what should have been, like where I should actually
Um,
be is
yeah,
essentially like the horizon. Like you'll never
yeah,
get there. Like no one, whether they're a billionaire to like, there are still things that they could have done. They could have been better. Could have done this. Could have done that. Like that's the
yeah.
horizon. Never gonna reach it. And you're here in this process, so you're like halfway maybe to that part. And you're only a lot of people just focus on the gap between where they
That's
are
right.
and the horizon. But if you just
Yes,
look backwards and you see all that you've gained so far, it's
that's so true.
really impactful and it really does help sort of take those next steps to evaluate sort of where
That's
you are
true.
now and how to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's like there's two parts to it. I wanted to add. The first part was um when you put yourself or when you can envision like having a goal is good because that gives you the direction where you're heading towards. But having that goal only say next year you're gonna reach an X amount of money, but you don't reach it, and then you beat yourself up. No,
Yeah.
that's bad. And then you totally let go
Yeah, you
because
can't
you're doing
derail
so good.
things. Yeah.
Exactly. Then you
Exactly.
spiral again, and then because you're already doing so well, but then you foresee or by the time comes, oh my God, it's not there yet.
Hmm.
How am I gonna do it? And you know what? This is not working for me. I'm saying let go. And then the other part was that going it's like a hill, right? So I think it's good to celebrate. You have to, not good. You have to celebrate your little wins because I mean you get up every day. It's already job well done. You show up. So yeah. So I mean, yeah. But coming back to finances, Ryan, how do you balance the business finances with the personal finances?
Sure. Yeah. So this is like a big part, and I'm speaking to a lot of. I know that you have listeners all over the world, and so like any sort of financial stuff, I'm talking about from like my centric U.S. mindset because that's the only sort of like system I like have knowledge of in financial space. So just as a kind of a caveat there.
Caveat.
Yeah. But so, there's all these ways that we try to separate our business and personal side of things. Like, in the US, we'll develop a business structure for the business. So we'll get an LLC or an S corp or whatever is what they're called. And we have different books for the business and the personal, and we have different credit cards and banks and whatnot for both. But in reality, there's a lot of overlap between what happens on the personal and what happens in the business and the impact on the other side. So, like if you have a house and you suddenly need a new roof and you don't have the money for the new roof, you might be doing really well in the business, but because you don't have the money for the new roof, you suddenly feel a lot worse about the business.
Oh my
Um,
God.
or
Yeah.
or if you're starting to see like growth in the business, but you're not doing a good enough job of making sure that you're profiting from that growth, you're not seeing the benefits on the personal side, then you're going to feel a lot worse about both things. And
Yes.
so understanding like that kind of overlap and realizing that like, it's good to have like legal structures in place to protect you from like getting sued or something like that. But you have to realize that you in a lot of ways are, especially if you are self-employed, you're a therapist, or running another service-based sort of self-employment business, like you are the business as well. And so like you can't ignore the personal, you can't ignore the business when you're evaluating both sides.
Mhm. Thank you. That's a good one. That's a good one. So, what are some of the best ways to develop security or wealth in the business or practice?
And so this is going to be another one where it's really going to depend on your country's rules and laws and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing I like to say, so like in the U.S., for example, we have to take so much of the saving for retirement on ourselves. We have a little bit from like what's called Social Security, but so much of like developing retirement funds, developing wealth. We don't get health care for the rest of our lives. We don't get
Yeah.
we have
Oh,
to
yeah.
we have to pay for all this stuff, a lot of it ourselves. And so one of the real valuable ways of creating what I like to call a secondary income stream in the business is really starting to save for retirement, because what you're doing is you're creating tax advantages now and then creating this like pool of funds that you're not going to use right now, but you're going to use in the future. And the more you're able to do that, the more security you're going to feel in the business, the more you're willing to like take chances in the business, because you're kind of covered, you're feeling really good on over here for the future. And so you can really think about like what's going to move your business forward today and whatnot. And so that's really very valuable. And there's really only three ways to create wealth. Like the ability to turn self-employment income into wealth is such a key thing to ensure that your long-term security is reached and you don't burn out. Because if you're self-employed, you know that all of it kind of falls on you. All the work,
Yes.
all the day to day, all that stuff. And that's fine for 1 year and then 2 years. But, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to become a drag. And so how are you taking the income that you're earning, supporting your lifestyle, but also figuring out ways that you're increasing your wealth in the process? And that requires either investing in the markets, investing in like turning your business into a business and not just a one-man band, or
Right.
investing in the real estate. Those are the only three ways. And so you need to figure out what's best for you based off your risk, based off your country's laws, that sort of thing. But you need to take that step in order to avoid that burnout down the line, because it will happen. I mean, I've worked for myself for almost 15 years, and there have been like part of the reason I switched careers is because I really got burnt out in writing, and I got kind of tired of it, and I wanted to work with people one on one. But I had created enough security between my wife and I. We've had enough security to where I could make that switch, and it wasn't going to derail our future or anything like that. So having sort of that flexibility is really important.
Mhm, mhm. That's a really good tip. Yeah, so you were mentioning so I remember the two. Number two
Mm.
was to how do you from a practice and that from becoming a one man show to actually like having a business or a practice where we'll be working with other several therapists. Oh, I'm not sure how yet. And then
Yeah.
number three is real estate. So in number
And
one, yeah.
the investing in the markets. So like,
Investing in
yeah,
markets. Yeah.
just regular investing, what people think of a lot of times when they think of investing. Yeah.
Right. So the second one, can we expand more on that? Like, what do you mean, like, especially from a therapist, like a one-man
Hmm.
show saying that person want to expand or like have a business run on its own? Because I mean, the whole crux of having a business is ultimately you do want to sell it off, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the
Ideally.
goal.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, ideally. So, yeah, can you share with us your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So when clients come to me, because I do work with a lot of like therapy owners,
Mm-hmm.
they'll come and I'll look at their business and I will value their business as a $0 asset. And I do that because it can't be sold. Like there's nothing around it that can be sold because it's all being run by the therapist themselves. Either they're seeing every single one of the clients, or they might, have one person kind of helping them out, but they're managing. In the U.S., it's called ass in seat. They have their ass in the seat, talking to
Oh,
clients,
Okay.
Yeah, talking to
Like
clients. Yep.
say I'm a client now. I know, so I'm a therapist, then I have a client here. So it's like it's
Your
me.
ass is in the
Okay.
seat. Yeah.
My ass in
So,
the seat. Okay.
yeah. And so so what happens is, after a number of years of doing this, is they're hearing people talk. It's talk about their issues, talk about their concerns, and they're very empathetic people. But they eventually get burnt out because every dollar they make requires them sitting in that seat,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so in order to shift that, they either need to build security for themselves in that business or in other businesses. That's like one tactic that they need to do. So
Right.
some therapists are like, they never want to manage people. They never want to have anything but a solo business, and that's fine. Then they need to invest in the markets, they need to invest in real estate, or they need to invest in other businesses because their business is never going to be sold because they can't. They like their clients are their clients, and no one's going to go in and just say, well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to pay for your clients, even though like 75% of them are just going to leave as soon as like I start showing up instead of you. And so they can't do that. But those who are willing to manage can take steps to carefully grow hiring folks, and that's going to depend a lot on the country's laws that they're operating in and whatnot. If they do it carefully and slowly, they over time can build, very sizable businesses. I have a client with 30 practitioners underneath her. Like that's a really good business that can be sold one day, and that's going to be the difference between her having a really unsecure retirement and a very secure retirement is going to be
Mm.
selling that business. And so that's going to be a key aspect of her, so-called wealth in the future. But and she's ready, like this person's ready to get out of it and sell, and she's done it for many years, and she wants like to do something else for some time. And that's great, that's good for her. But you kind of have to figure out sort of where you want to go, what type of business do you want to run, and then either grow that business the way you're sort of imagining or create security for yourself outside of the business if that business is never going to be more than what you're basically an income stream.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I'm learning so much from this right now.
Hey,
It's
happy to
because,
help.
yeah, it's because I mean, somebody who's been in the corporate for a while, like myself, and about to
Hmm.
jump into this, and I mean, you learn the theory part of it, right? But until you're in it, then only you'll know how to you'll get the experience.
Hmm.
So, and when
I
you were,
would say also
yeah,
because you're studying like I speak to therapists in the U.S. mostly, and they're in school like 8-10 years before they're actually a therapist between their undergrad, their graduate, and their mass or in their PhD sometimes, and not once. And even though like most of like the therapists that operate in the U.S. are self-employed business owners, not once do they have a class on how to run a business in that entire time frame.
mm,
And
yeah.
that can, and so they come out and they're like, they get their hours, under someone's umbrella, but then they go out on their own and they never learned how to like operate a business. Sometimes they don't even view themselves as entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
And so it's a mind shift and it's lessons and
That's right.
yeah.
And that's it's it's so because the whole point of you leaving your job is because you want to be your own boss and you want to dictate your own hours, but it's like
Mhm.
you're still in the same race. Well, you're trading your time for money. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
at the end of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, we want to be financially free. Have you do 20% and then you get 80% output of it, right? So and it's I think what you're doing is really really good, and your focus you have a good niche actually. When I look at this, like, he really, I mean, because you help practitioners to envision. They know, okay, some people go, no, I think if not most, if not all, they want to go into therapy because they're driven by something. They want to be impactful. They want to help people, right? And their focus is already there. But the expansion of it is something that they could, you know, ask help from, and people like you is the person that they should go to. If it hadn't I known or spoken to or be even in the accounting or exposed to accounting, financial investing, I would not have that knowledge myself. They would just go therapy, open up their solo business, and ask in the seat, and that's it. 5 years later, 10 years later, they said, "Oh, I opened my business, but I'm still here. I'm not even rich yet. What am I
Hmm.
doing?"
Oh
Right?
yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. So, well,
it,
this.
it it's just because you are going that route. I will say that like not only does that happen, but therapists are naturally empathetic people,
Yes.
and they also believe that they can work until they're 75, 80, 85 because this is just what they do. They listen to people's problems. They try to guide people through tough situations. And they
True.
would be doing that whether they're working as a therapist or not, because their friends come to them for help and stuff like that. And the key thing is no one, like you may want to work till you're 85, but you don't want to be forced to work till you're 85.
Yeah.
And so that's where like understanding your goals in the situation are such a key part of it. And, I think, like my clients benefit from the fact that like so much of their life is listening to others, but when I'm working with them, it's all about them. It's not about me. It's not about like my issues or my concerns, but it's about them and giving them time to think about like what they actually want.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like being their therapist in terms of financial or their
Well, I'm
future
not a
business.
therapist, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
but
like,
but I
I mean,
do
yeah.
I do listen to some concerns a bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Whew, okay, thank you, Ryan. So, I think we did touch a bit about this earlier,
Mhm.
but let's just we can circle back on this. Like, what are some important steps that one can take to manage his or her finances now that their business is starting to take off?
Yeah, we definitely did touch a little bit on this. Sorry, just gonna take a drink.
That's okay.
It's early here. I know it's late there. I'm still waking up
No,
here,
I
you
have
know.
my teacup too, so cheers to that.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you know what? I'm not going to just talk about those who are financially secure or starting to see their business take off. I'm going to start with those just beginning, and then I'll go from there.
Oh,
Like those just beginning to get started. One thing when you run a service-based business, and what I mean by service-based business is where your hours are what's driving the income. So like, you're charging clients by the hour, whether you're a writer, you're a therapist, you're, engineer, whatever. And when you're getting started, and when we were talking about that personal to business line, like how you spend in your personal life is going to be so important to how that business grows on the business side, because essentially you're going to be evaluating what is my income in a month, and that income is going to come from how you spend. And so the more that you're able to reduce your spending at the beginning, the more that you can leave in the business, the more that that can grow, and you can create some security for yourself in the business. And so that's really important. Like when you run a service-based business, you don't think of yourself as like that tech entrepreneur working in, your mother's basement to like make $1 billion.
yeah.
Being frugal and cutting back will be important in that early time. Then as you're growing, it's really evaluating, again, as I had mentioned, based off your country's rules and laws, the best way to shift income from the business to yourself in tax advantage ways. So like in the US, we have ways to invest where we don't actually count that as income on our tax form. So if we make 20,000 that we put into what's called a 401k, we don't get taxed on that 20,000 until far into the future, when we need it for like retirement income. And so that can be a very valuable way to reduce costs now, keep more of the money, and then allow the business to grow as long as we're able to cover our personal expenses. But then, like as you're becoming more secure and whatnot, really evaluate sort of where you want that business to grow. If you're a therapist like yourself and you're starting to see your business take off, and you might rent out a therapy space in, like office or whatever, but it may be worthwhile to then now buy. And you can take advantage of
Um,
some tax advantages of buying. So evaluating those different options and evaluating it from a holistic sort of manner of like where you are, what you want, where you want to go, that sort of thing, along with the tax impact is going to be really valuable.
mm, wow,
Yeah.
that was a good one. So, build, figure out, get the hang of it, and then when you're in there, then position yourself in terms of the whatever asset because of the tax. But of course, you're talking from the point of view of U.S. legislation, right?
Right. Yeah.
Ah, mhm.
And real estate's the one where I can't really guide on, like, because that's gonna be so different depending on the country. Some countries
Yeah,
you have to basically put up 100% of the money to buy a property. That's gonna be far more difficult than like in the U.S. where you have to put up like 10 to 20% at first or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So
In Malaysia, it's also like that, 10%.
yeah.
Yeah, down payment. Yeah, but essentially, I think whatever that you're saying, it's in the right trajectory of moving yourself as a solo practitioner to a business,
Mhm.
and ultimately, yeah, uh, hopefully, if this is your goal, to position yourself to sell, right? To
Yeah,
sell.
ideally,
Yeah,
ideally.
yeah,
The other
yeah.
thing I would say, and this goes across countries, is find the right advice. And
Mm.
so much advisors, planners, uh, CPAs, guides, like some are great, and then some their business models don't allow for them to offer you the right advice because they're taking commissions, they're taking guidance from insurance firms, mutual funds, other tools to that is providing the advice. So it's creating a layer of like a layer that's like kind of guiding them to this layer that has been a bad advice, right?
Yeah,
So
because there's
it
self-interest. They have
it
vested
right.
interests.
Exactly. And so make sure you're finding the right advice no matter what country you're in. And it's going to depend on the rules of the country, where what type of the right advice is. But making sure that their incentives and they're paid by you and you only, that's going to really help in the long term. It may be more out of the pocket today, but it's going to help a lot more in the long
Yeah, yeah. And I'd like to take that to my next question. Like, so
term.
how do you begin to position a business for sale?
Oh, yeah. You need, so I'm going to talk about in the US in particular because I think it's a good guide. There's going to be like country by country sort of dynamics there. But in the US, for instance, you need at least 2 years of profits. It's not something, and by profits, I mean that you're also paying yourself a good amount of money as a salary. Because
Right.
someone's going to come in, see, and say, "Oh, this is a profitable business." Oh, wait, no, it's not because
But you're
they are not
not,
paying yourself.
yeah, you're not
Well,
paying
they're going to
yourself.
add that in, and then that's going to be what the profits is going to be. So you really need 2 years of good profits where you're paying yourself. You need assets, so something that lives beyond you. It can't be, your name or therapy like credentials, and that's it. But you need like an asset behind it. So typically that's gonna be employees. That's gonna be a client generator of some sort, so that a buyer knows that if they come in, it's not gonna all disappear. Like this is living beyond you. This can sustain uh, once you're gone. And then it's finding the right buyer. Like it's a really good time right now if those who have a business that's kind of being built up for sale in the therapy space and some other like self-employment spaces because of the dynamics that are going on, not just in the U.S. but in around the globe, where basically the baby boomer generation or the early 60s to and older, they're starting to move out of the workforce. Meanwhile, we
Mm.
have a very young generation moving
Entering the
in,
workforce.
and
Yeah.
right, and some of the ways that they can fast forward their growth could potentially be purchasing like a therapy practice or a small self-employment business or something like that. And so
Oh.
it creates a good amount of opportunity right now. And because of those dynamics, like tech firms, private equity groups, they recognize this. They're investing in different spaces because of those dynamics, and so it creates opportunity like that.
So you're saying that baby boomers, when they're now leaving the workforce and they're coming in, I mean, to stay relevant, or yeah, they staying relevant. It's just they want to do something, they can purchase a therapy. Or are you saying
So
the
in the U,
millennial, no, not millennials, Gen Zs? Don't
or
know.
millennial, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
so like as someone's like deciding, hey, I think I'm getting close to retirement, I want to maybe sell this thing. One way in the US that they could do
Ah.
that is
Mhm.
say, who do I want to run this for me when I'm gone? And they can handpick their successor, say a millennial or a Gen Z, and they can train them for a couple years to get them to the point where they could essentially run the business. And then they could um, then position the contract in a way where, say, they get 20% upfront. So 20% of the sale of the business. And then over the next 10 years, they're going to get payments plus interest paid to them from the buyer, handpicked mentor or mentee. The handpicked mentee can then use profits from the business to then pay back the the owner for the business while they grow the business as a whole. And so it creates opportunity where you can actually handpick your successor, pass on your knowledge, pass on your care, pass on your strategies, and create a income source for yourself in the first few years of retirement. It could be very valuable that way. It's not going to be an option for everyone, but it is an option that does exist, especially for smaller group practices.
No, I love that because because you're showing the longevity, but at the same time, how to sustain it before when you're not in the business anymore.
Mhm.
And well, some people may want their business to just be there, and once they choose to retire, okay, I'm gonna sell it, and I don't want anything to do with it anymore,
Yeah.
right? But the on the other side, I mean, normally, typically, people who are therapists, like you said, empathic, and they would want to really know if you're if by the word of mouth you're really good at what you do, people would still want to come back because there's goodwill there, right?
Hmm.
And association with certain name or certain practitioner, even though that founder is not there anymore, still brings value, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, as
Yeah.
someone who's been in therapy for many years and has had the same therapist is,
Yeah.
on the older side. If I knew that he was eventually going to retire, but also he was getting me comfortable with another therapist, like that's
Yeah,
valuable. Like I'm going to
exactly.
trust him to help guide
Precisely.
me better
Yeah.
than anyone else. So it creates
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah, that's yeah, we're in the people business. So yeah, because you
absolutely.
trusted exactly. Because you trusted him, and therefore he will take that and then make sure that whoever is taking over my practice, you're gonna be in good hands. That's good.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much, Ryan.
Absolutely.
So so what is next for you?
I am really in the just building my business mode. I was since I was a writer for so many years, and operating by myself, it really became a slog by the end and kind of a drag. And now since I shifted, I really love what I do. I used to talk to people and they
Yay!
talk about like they used to talk about like how they like their job and whatnot, and I was like, you're
Damn, I
like
love my job. Here,
out,
here.
yeah,
Yes,
forget
yes.
it. Out of your mind. No way.
Yeah.
Not possible. But now I really do. And, so much of like financial conversations about financial independence and creating space for yourself and not having to work. But I will say that once you find the right thing, it makes it so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And sure, you want to take vacations, you want to spend time with family and whatnot, but this is another part of your life that you can really embrace and enjoy. So that's really what I mean. I'm just building that business so I can continue doing this, talk to people like you, and and continue, you know, growing in the way that I'm kind of trying to right now.
I love that simply because I can resonate. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, 9 to 5, well, no more, and
yeah.
binning it. So now entering a new, I would say, chapter. So growing up, the workforce, I chose accounting simply because it's something that any other industry would take. Oh, there would be no
Secure. Yeah,
shortages. Yeah, shortages
yeah,
of accountants. So, but then I figured out, like, no, do I really want to be doing this the rest of my life? No. And I like talking to people, and I'm a kind of person who kind of risk averse in the sense that I don't mind trying and I don't mind failing.
yeah,
because it's okay. I mean, if you fail, so what, right? You try again, and then it doesn't. That then this way doesn't work. So well, the what I was trying to say is that now that I may not know what I'm gonna do like beyond this, but like what you said, I am really enjoying what I do now.
yeah.
So I started podcasting first because I wanted to get myself accustomed talking to people free of charge. Like I don't want to, because I don't want to be like, people giving me money in exchange for my therapy. So it's like, oh my god, that's like, that's actually, let me practice first. And I like talking. I
Hmm.
love talking, communicating. So and then so I said, okay, started podcasting back in June 2023, and to my surprise, I enjoyed it
Yeah,
until my I put my the course on the back burner for a bit until my company said that, okay, you need to vacate your role because it's no longer, we're reorganizing. So I'm like, okay, Nicole, you gotta pull your socks up and finish it so you can actually make money.
yeah. Well, that'll come,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, with you on the I love my job part. So okay, we're gonna pivot to a question on self-worth, Ryan, because,
Hmm.
well, this is the essence of my podcast. So the question for you is, how does the process of self-discovery and building self-worth differ for introverts and extroverts, and what unique challenges each one might face?
Can't speak to extroverts because I am much more of an introvert. I former writer here.
Oh,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can say that like the self discovery, the try new things, like I'm always looking for something new to try, and I just have to feel comfortable when I'm ready to like try. So I'll think about things for a long time before I like actually decide to go and do it. Like something as simple as playing tennis, right? So I need something new to like work out and like run around and like make sure I, stay healthy and whatnot. And I've always been a basketball player. I've always run, even though I don't like running, and that sort of thing. So I need something new, and so I have to figure out something new. And right now I'm trying tennis, and I really like it, but it's really hard because you need other people to play tennis, and
Ah,
so
yes, yes, yes.
it's figuring out sort of like where can I go, how can I go, and then just kind of embracing whatever that sort of me looking goofy looks like. Once I get my head wrapped around that, I'm able to really go and do because one, I have kind of confidence in myself that I'm not gonna like shrink and die if I do something like this. But I just have to feel comfortable like internally before I do it.
Yeah, I love that. It's because, well, it's something that something new, and well, all those things you can do it by yourself, basketball and running, right? And now
Yeah,
you actually need a partner. Or if it's squash, then you can just hit that ball on the wall.
Well, I guess I could. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's fewer squash courts over here than
Really?
yeah. It's not
Okay.
so it's hard to do. But no, I mean
Yeah.
that's the other thing is like just because I'm an introvert doesn't mean I don't enjoy people. Like I want to be able to interact. Like one thing as someone who deals with retirement issues on a daily basis, the best way to age gracefully and healthy and long is having a lot of connections and people interactions and whatnot. And so it's really from a like a health perspective really good to have that all that stuff. So just because I'm introverted doesn't mean I don't want those things and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Before was I was in I would say ambivert, depending on situation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we need alone time for for solitude, for thinking about, okay, how am I gonna advise this client next with his or her issues with his business or retirement, right? So,
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
I have two kids, like they want to hang around me at all times, but there are moments where I have to say like I need to get away, I need to be alone. Yeah, so,
Yes, yes, that's true. Okay, Ryan, what is your heart's greatest wish?
what's greatest wish
Hmm.
for the future? For can you?
Yeah, for yourself, for your family, for your business, for the world,
I mean,
in general.
no, there's many different wishes, I guess. I'll just talk about myself in
Yeah.
that sense. Honestly, my heart's greatest wish right now is just to be able to continue to support my kids in a way that I really enjoy uh, doing things. I want to eventually be able to move to France for a month or two at a time, or do like other sort of travel things. But really, it's far more important to make sure that I'm building my business and protecting like my kids in the long run, and that's really my main focus right now. That's kind of how I spend my time thinking and things that like kind of bring me enjoyment right now.
Wow. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your dream with us.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's not something I think of quite in that sort of design, I guess.
Context, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Do you have a mantra that you live by?
It's not so much a mantra, but that gain versus gap scenario, I'm constantly reminding myself of just because I really want to focus on the accomplishments as opposed to where I'm lacking a lot because I think it's just going to give me more energy and more desire, like like more energy and more drive to continue forward if I'm focusing on what I'm doing well as opposed to constantly worried about what I'm not doing or where I'm short. So it's not so much a mantra, but I do really focus on that a lot.
Mm. That brings me to my next question. What keeps you up at night, or do you sleep well? Is there anything that keeps you up at night?
Well, no, I mean, honestly, it's weird when you become a financial planner. And one thing I have to do is counter this is instead of worrying about my own finances at night, I'm worried about other people's finances at night. And so I'm running through client scenarios of their finances at night, which is a very strange dynamic for me. One way I counter that is like my wife likes to watch Friends, like reruns of Friends at night.
Right.
And so I'll be watching some and I try to rerun the episode in my head to try not to think about like client scenarios.
Attach
But that,
yourself to the
yeah,
client's problem at hand.
yeah, exactly. So that tends to be
Yeah.
what keeps me up at night.
Okay. Right. Last question, Ryan. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
That's a big ask. Um,
I get that a lot.
yeah,
No,
that's
I
a
like it. I had a few guests who came in and it was like when they ask, especially the heart's greatest wish and this one, they'll be like, "Oh my God, Nick, you put me on the spot here." I'm like, I didn't mean to, but I don't want to be giving you beforehand so that you have you had time to think of it. But yeah,
oh,
anything, the
no,
first thing that pops
yeah.
into mind. Yep.
Oh, again, I'm a writer. I can't just throw stuff in, and I have to like edit it and whatnot. But
Oh, now I see the
s-
pattern. You asked me the first time. You were like, "Are we gonna edit this out?" Yeah, we will. I will, but I'm gonna keep it from the high and all the way until we say goodbye.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah.
yeah, no, it's fine. In terms of a quote, it'd be something like, "Be patient, it'll happen." When for a good example is like everyone's talks about having mentors, right? I felt like I had people in my life that wanted me to do well, but they weren't really mentors, right? And I because I was self-employed, I had very few mentors. I had like one person who I kind of looked up to, but it wasn't like I was tapping her on a regular basis to get help. And so now, I'm in my 40s now, and I'm only now having mentors for the first time in my life. And that's one, because I really know where I want to go. I look at people in my field that I want to mimic and whatnot, where, previously I didn't really want, a lot of people's who would become mentors jobs or anything like that. And so, that "be patient, it'll happen" thing kind of relates to that, because it will come. It just, even if it's a little later than you expect.
Thank you so much. I would apply that to myself too.
Yeah.
Like having a business is really patience is one of the key
Oh,
tenets,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you think when you open, the customers are going to fly in, but it's not always like that.
Yeah, like
So,
you have this whoa, like oh my God, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna have back to back appointments, and
yeah.
then click, click, click,
Yeah.
nothing
And it's a
happens for
lot
about
of,
for about 3 weeks or something. Or you have one like asking potential, but then they don't even no sign up. So and it can get frustrating and demotivating. But I think going in with the right mindset and having done your research, financial, like like you, and with faith
Mhm.
or yeah, and luck, hard work, definitely. Yeah, they'll make it. We'll
Yes.
make it. I will make it.
As long as you're doing the things to be successful, it will happen
Oh,
eventually.
that's a good one. You're doing every single thing that you do is moving you to that direction. That's like, to the simplest act of getting up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Just sitting is looking, researching for potential clients, putting yourself out there. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. I had a
Absolutely.
great conversation today. I learned so much from you.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate
can I
it too.
just say, if your listeners predict, I mean, again, it's going to be more geared to the U.S. audience, but if you go to thinkingcapfinancial.com/income to wealth, I'll pass along the link. There's a free ebook download. It's about how to turn that private practice or solo income into wealth. So sort of the tactics to do so. Feel free to go there, and you can download it.
Awesome. Just a recap of what we talk about today in
Yeah,
the
a little
form of
bit.
a free ebook, guys. So there you have it. This is Ryan
Derousseau.
Derousseau. Derousseau. All right, Ryan. Thank you so much for your time. When once this airs, I will be sure to tag you on social media.
Yes, please do. Please do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
you take care, Ryan. Bye bye.